Frederick is recording the call. I'm getting
Yeah, get ready.
I'm being notified.
Good. Legally, we have to tell you this is being recorded. This podcast is being recorded.
He was looking for a life that would give him the feeling of being worthwhile.
This week on Between Two Amps, we have a very special guest. You might know him from such bands as Narrows, Rod of Correction. He is the mastermind and roaster behind, or one of the masterminds behind Heartwork Coffee in San Diego. Mm-hmm. And an all-around amazing dude.
Yes.
You also
started God Collider with us.
I know. You would know Sam from the intro to Between Two Amps because his pummeling is prominently featured on that. So give a big Between Two Amps welcome to Sam Stothers. How you doing, buddy?
Woo! All right. Cue fireworks.
All right, Sam. So, you know, what was your first show, or your first memory of playing an instrument? Of how you got into punk or metal, whatever.
Yeah. So I'm a metal dude. I'm a metalist through and through. So
yes.
So growing up, it was my parents were bikers. They were Harley riding, full on Easy Rider, full on bikers. So there was a lot of Skinnerd and Sabbath and shit like that in the house. Ozzy was huge, so got into that. My older brother was a total long-haired dirtbag. We were all dirtbags, but and him and his friends were into Metallica, Slayer, all that kind of late 80s, mid to late 80s shit. And then I had a friend who I went to elementary school with. And he was way into Maiden because his sister was into his older sister was into Maiden, was into all kinds of punk and cool shit like that. And so he got me into Maiden when I was 11. And so that was kind of my foray, wearing Maiden shirts in fucking elementary school and my parents didn't give a shit. They were whatever, we're cool. And so he was super into Steve Harris. He was I'm gonna play bass. You should play guitar. And I was cool. I don't have a guitar. And what I did have was a clarinet that I never fucking used because I wanted me to be in a band. And she's you should learn how to play an instrument. You want to be in a band, so here's a clarinet. And I played clarinet for I think it was probably a month. And I was this shit sucks. Putting a little stick in the end, wood. Yeah, I couldn't.
I think that's called the reed.
The reed, yes, the reed. I could not. I could not quite wet the reed properly to where it air to pass through right, and it was squeaky, and I was lucky if I eked out a decent note, and it was hand play. It was all way too confusing for me. I'm
it is a hard instrument actually. I played clarinet for about 3 years, and I played clarinet for 3 years, and I remember my recital. I had a recital in front of the gym, in the gym for our middle school, and I'm playing, and we're supposed to be reading music and playing. I had no fucking idea what I was doing, so I was just acting like it. And my parents were "You weren't playing a note, were you?" I'm "Fuck no, I had no idea what I was doing."
Yeah, same. It was there was music class. And I'm in there and I'm blowing on this thing, but I'm in between all these trumpeters or whatever. Nobody was any good. And we were all kids, you know? All trying to do something or whatever. And it was just a total wash. So clarinet fucking disappeared. And so I'm hanging with my friend. He's into Maiden. He's man, you should play guitar. I'm okay. So I'm nag my mom I want to play guitar. think so. The first guitar I got, I was 12, and it was a Squire Strat.
Ooh.
Look like Dave Murray style, right? The black white guard. And I was like, yes, I'm on my way. I'm gonna be Dave Murray. Get ready. I'm fucking shredding. Like I'm gonna do it. And I fucking it was horrible.
Did it have? Was it single hum configuration, or was it?
It was single. I eventually we'll get to the hum. I did.
Okay.
Hum in there. I didn't know exactly what it did. I just knew. I was like, oh, that's what Dave Murray has, so that's what I'm gonna fucking get. So eventually, like, I did end up getting that put in, but so just like lots of that, like really horrible, and just like my friend was actually really good at bass, and he got that like finger gallop, Steve Harris shit, like he could do it, and he actually. Whoa. I was blown away. I was like, whoa, he's really good. I'm like, and I was trying to keep up, and it was really like rough for me because I was like not, learning as quickly as he was. So it was like, fuck, like, but it was brutal.
So how did you learn, let's say, the chord, the power chord? How did you learn the power chord?
Right. So he also was like able to. He got like his parents like had like I don't want to say they had a lot of money, but they like kind of spoiled him a little bit, and he ended up being like kind of a total dick, but whatever. But he always had like rad gear, and he always had like he had tablature books, and we like learned to read tablature. So like through those, and just like listening to records over and over again, and like going like, oh, okay, the 1 and the 3 and the 3 and the 5. I'm like, oh, okay, I get this. You're like, power chord, sick. And then like all the like that was the easy part. And the like even the like the gallop and the like the strumming I could get down pretty easily, but the fingering stuff was like that was the brutal part. I could get like the melody parts and shit down. Solos, like forget solos. Like that was the one like rad supportive thing that my parents did as far as like my music was concerned. From then on out, there was no like, hey, you're doing great. No, nothing. They were like whatever. Like I was sitting in my room like the whole time because I was just like like their scene was not my scene, I would just sit in my room like for like 3 summers straight, like just like looking at these books. And so I eventually like taught myself how to play, and just like how like I was like, cool, oh wow, I got the Trooper down, like I can play all the rhythm parts.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, oh like I'm gonna try and like there was just like lots of weird, like obscure, maybe not like obscure, I mean for me they're not obscure, but like like there's just like all these like different things that like I could do and then I couldn't do. It was like when I nailed like Transylvania, like I was just like, or like Genghis Khan or whatever. I was like, yo, I'm there. I'm in Maiden now. I'm in Maiden. And then after like I got that down or whatever, like saved up enough money to get the hum put in the Strat. And there's a place still in San Diego over by the sports arena area called Mark's Guitar. And so I took it in there. I was like, give me that Seymour Duncan hum, put it in there.
Nice.
I thought it made it sound better, but I also had like a really shitty crate combo amp. It was like just 15, the little 15 water, like solid state guy.
Did it have the colored knobs on it? The red and green knob?
It did not have the colored knob. It was all white ones. And I don't know if somebody had replaced the knobs because I got it used. So I don't know if somebody replaced the knobs or not.
Knobs. That's nice.
Like, they were all just the white.
Yeah. I remember that. I had that version.
Whatever. And so I was like, whoa, yeah, but I'm gonna play in a band. I need a louder amp, right? Like, and just like, I'm broke. I'm a kid, like paper route, trying to earn money. The cool part about having like a dirtbag older brother that was like, with like all his friends were like, so just picture a heavy metal parking lot.
Yeah.
Like Priest, like Slayer, like though that was that group of dudes, and they were
Punks are
all
living on Mars.
Yeah, yeah, like
everything,
metal is metal. Yeah.
Oh, most definitely, right? So like all
Yeah.
these dudes were like all fucking heavy drug users, you know, like lots of dudes were into meth and stuff, like East County, San Diego, all of that. So, but the cool part was that these dudes were like also like would have like randomly know somebody with like gear, and they'd be like, oh, I need money for fucking drugs, so like here's this fucking thing. So the very first cabinet I got, well, not, I mean, I had the crate amp, but like nice cabinet I got was a JCM 800 212 cab that I got from this fucking tweaker guy for like $200.
Amazing.
And it had a head, but the head was like a head that was pulled out of a combo amp. So it was literally just the like the
Just
unit.
the actual like rack that the piece.
Literally just sitting on top of the fucking amp of the cab, and like all exposed, you know, circuit boards and everything. I was like, I don't know, this is not how this is supposed to look, and like, you know, shittily like wired, like, you know, I mean, it was like some tweaker looking wire and shit, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is gonna catch on fire, which eventually it did. Eventually it did, but it worked though, and I was like, for like a while, and I was like, okay, cool, like this is kind of loud or whatever, and then I was without a head for like quite a while.
So what was the chassis that amp? Do you know what it was?
I have no idea because it didn't have any like markings on the front of it at all. So I have no idea even like what brand it was. It just like, you know, there was like, it was all like off kilter because it was like the like capacitor was on one end, like, you know, like the heavy like capacitor was on one end, and it was just like, it would sit in a slant, and it was like, it
was solid state, I take it.
Oh yeah.
Was it like higher gain? Did you have a pedal or anything, or you just ran straight in?
I just ran straight in. I didn't have a pedal at first, and then eventually I got the Boss, the
HM2.
Yes, and that thing was sick. And I was like, yes, I have distortion. I am distorted.
So when you got, well, how did you find out about the HM2? Was it just like seeing like, oh, this is called heavy metal, I like heavy metal, give me this pedal?
Yeah. I bought it at Guitar Center, and I think it was like $40 or $50 or something like that at the time. And I was like, this is a lot of money for a fucking pedal, but I'm like, this is what you get. This is how you sound like you're gonna fucking, give me some crunch. I want crunch. You know,
so at that point, had you been exposed to like Swedish death metal band or anyone that was like Entombed or anyone that was using the HM2 or?
No, not like that I knew of. Not that I knew of. I just went to Guitar Center, and you know, they had that display set up with all the pedals, and you would just like go pedal to pedal and be like, oh, that's what this does. That's what that does. Like, oh, this one sounds sick, and I was like, and it's one of the cheaper ones that I can afford, so like that's what the fuck I got, and it worked, you know, worked great for a long time.
So how would you set that? Would you do the full dimed, or was it trying to get some nuance out?
I had no idea how to make this sound good, so it was like just cranked all the way, and if it like you know, hissed too much or like had too much like feedback or whatever, like dial the gain back or whatever a little bit, but I wanted it like, I'm like, I don't know, like fucking 11, let's go.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you unlocked the secret right away.
Did it have a tone knob? Because that was the only thing I knew how to adjust on any of that stuff, was like tone.
It didn't have like it had three knobs. It had like,
it was four total knobs.
Really?
There's a high, low, volume, and distortion.
Oh. So now your rig, if we recap, is your Fender Squire with a Seymour Duncan humbucker.
Right.
Right. You got the chassis of an unknown solid state head, which is great. And you got a Marshall 212 for like $200.
Yeah.
Which
I still have. If
it was a greenback or a V30, right?
Yeah. Greenbacks.
Yeah.
Oh, they were greenbacks.
Yeah.
Dude.
Oh, you scored.
Yeah, it was
I know.
like
Yeah. Didn't know
it took
then
me
what I had,
decades
but
to
still
get
don't
into
know.
that.
Never had a reason to get rid of that cab, so I was just like, I'm just gonna keep this. It sounds fucking. It's never not sounded great.
You still have it?
Yeah, I still have it.
Oh,
Got
wow.
that thing in 92. 92.
Fuck. Yes. That's awesome that you still have gear from then.
Still sounds awesome.
Do you have that guitar
You
still?
played on it the other day. You played on it the last time we played.
Oh, that was it?
That was it. That was
Man.
That's awesome.
So just a little side note, I was down in San Diego probably 4 or 5 months ago. Sam, me, and our friend Rob and Ryan, Ashley Patterson, who was on here, we were trying to do a oi band.
We're still gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
Yeah, street punk oi band. So I didn't know, but that was the amp that I played out of. So keep your eyes out for the oi band, and perhaps that amp will be used, or that cab will be used on the recording.
Thing is dope. But so that was the setup for a while, and then eventually after getting together, so like moving forward about 2 years, like I get into high school, and like I don't really know anything about punk, but like some of these kids that I get into high school, and there's other dudes that went to like different junior high, and they were like kind of skater dudes, and they were like, oh, we listen to like punk and like and hardcore. I'm like, I don't know what hardcore is. This is like what, 93, 94.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what that is. And they would like play some stuff for me. They're like, oh, this is Judge. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it kind of just sounds like metal to me, but all right, cool. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, here's Carcass. Check this out. I don't know. And then, and they're like, oh, whoa, that's like way, it was like way too fast or whatever. But eventually, like, we got each other into all these different kinds of things, and they were like, oh, you play guitar, like we should start a band. Like, all right, cool. Like, what do you guys want to sound like? And they're like, I don't know, like, they would play all kinds of stuff, like, like, oh, this here's Earth Crisis. So like, oh, cool, like, Firestorm 7-inch. I'm like, oh, cool, like whatever. What was really funny though was like I was just like never into like punk or any of that stuff, and I would hear like a lot of dudes like listening to like, there was like a lot of like Minor Threat and like Fugazi and like Misfits and like all that skater punk stuff that they like was like lots of people were listening to all that stuff, and like most of the stuff really didn't strike a chord with me, which I have a later year appreciation for a lot more of that stuff, especially like the Discord stuff. But the one band that I was like, yeah, this is my jam, was fucking Bad Brains. Like that for me was like, I was like, yo, these guys are fucking sick. This shit is fast. It's so wild. It was so wild. I was like, how do you not like Bad Brains?
And it's technical too, if you look at it.
Yeah, well, that was the other thing too. Like, like you go like, oh, Misfits, it's like kind of just, like it's the fucking Misfits. You're like, whatever, it's cool, it's fun, like great, obviously songwriting and like very catchy hooks and all that kind of stuff. So sing-along made it really easy, but like Bad Brains was like, well, like, there was like stop changes and like fast rolls and like so many things that you're just like, I mean, I listened to Slayer. It's not like I wasn't used to fast music. It was just different. It was something else. And I was like, oh, these dudes are sick. So that was like my kind of first foray into like any kind of punk that I was like actually into. Same thing with hardcore. There was like stuff that like either strikes a chord with you, didn't strike a chord with you. So it was like kind of shaped like how this band kind of formulated or whatever. This was the like straight edge. Like we were the straight edge hardcore band in high school.
Yeah.
They were, you guys are weird. Oh, you guys are vegetarian? What's wrong with you? You don't drink or do drugs? What's wrong with you? We're like,
So
lots of things.
yeah. So what was what about what year was that? So that would have been 94, 95?
93, 94. Yeah.
Okay.
Guys, so like we kind of formed a band in like early '94, I think. And then so yeah, we just started like getting together, writing songs. One dude played drums. Another dude was like, I'm gonna be the singer, and I was like, cool. And then we found just like a couple of different bass players that kind of fluctuated in and out. We weren't very good. I mean, I thought we were great. We weren't.
Yeah.
But then we started getting like put on. We were like, just like like you're like, oh, this guy, we're gonna play this backyard show, or like, oh, like we're gonna play these like there's these like all kinds of little like hole in the wall places, just random like, strip malls and stuff where these like shows were happening, and it was like cool. And you play, and there's like 10 kids, and like
Yeah.
So, and all of this was in San Diego?
All in San Diego, yeah. Yeah, we never played outside of San Diego. This band was like strictly one demo tape. And I think we got on a comp, on a zine, the zine comp, the zine was Inside Front. I don't remember where they were out of, but they put out like a comp CD or whatever. And there was like a bunch of really good bands on there. It was like Catharsis was on there and like a bunch of like cool bands. Oh. And then we ended up getting
awesome.
Oh, your first band. That's good. My first band, oh boy. Oh wait, actually I take that back. My first band was also on a comp, but I don't know what other bands are on that comp.
Yeah, it was I don't know. It was really cool, but
so you're playing some shows in strip malls.
It's like DIY, like total DIY. Like I don't even know who owned the space. I just know that like somebody was like, "Oh, we're gonna play a show there." I'm like, "Cool," and then there's a flyer, and you're like, "All right, cool," and like I never saw. There was never like security. There was like some punk kid was just collecting money at the door. I don't know where any of that money ever went. Like you're just like cool. There's like it's like this place called Mesopotamia. I don't know who named it that. It literally didn't look like any. It was called Cafe Mesopotamia, and I was just like, I don't know. There's not even a cafe here. I don't understand. But it's just like a empty room, long, had a stage at the end of it, and like a kind of decent PA, and like that was the room. And there was places like that place called the Soul Kitchen in El Cajon that was this like smaller, like little DIY place. You like walk in, and there's like a stage off to the right, and then just like a big empty space that went to the back. I think they maybe had like a bar or some sort of concession stand at the back, but it was like pretty budget.
Would any touring bands play in those places, or?
Yeah, like a lot of the like hardcore bands and stuff that got like booked through.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there's like, like Damnation, Earth Crisis, Integrity. There was a place called, I think it wasn't the World Beat Center, but I think it was called the World Beat Center, but I was like in a weird location, kind of like, actually pretty close to our shop. Mm-hmm. And they had some shows like Bloodlet I saw play there, like 108. 1134, like all kinds of that.
Was it a Bloodlet 108 Coalesce tour?
Yes. And that was
sick. That was a good one.
Yeah. Like it just kind of started like it was like all these local things, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, this band's playing, cool, so we'll go check that out. And then that's how I kind of got introduced to a lot of local people that were like setting up shows. So like, like Gabe, like the Locust, was one of those bands, like Swing Kids, Struggle, and obviously Unbroken was like, that was like the big San Diego band. So like anytime they played, like it was like always. I don't think there's ever been an Unbroken show in San Diego that I ever saw that wasn't like rad, like super rad. So I was like, oh, this is so great. Like that was like that kind of scene or whatever. Because a lot of shows you like go to like a house show or something like that, and it would be like mixed reaction, whatever. It's kind of how San Diego's always been. You'll get like hands folded or hands in pockets, and just everybody kind of like staring.
So one of the things that I've heard about the San Diego scene, that it was notorious for the lead singers getting punched on stage. Did you ever witness any of that? I think it was more of an 80s thing, but I don't know if that came through.
I couldn't say that I've ever seen that or known that to be a thing, but I've never seen.
So when you were going to those shows, for a lot of times, like Fred and I will ask in a lot of the interviews that we've done so far, because it's been kind of a common theme with him and I, is some of the cities so he's from Virginia, and I'm from Chicago, and the towns, anytime a band would come through, like each town had its own like amp, right? Like everyone who played in bands would be like, oh, we're gonna get this amp, right? So for example, every time I say, like, when Unbroken played Chicago, the next day everyone went out and got Fender M80s, right?
So that was the next evolution of amp, was the Fender M80. Was that after the fucking fire? I was like, yo, Unbroken is sick. And I'm like, oh, they got like real good crunch, and like, what amp is that they're using? So the Fender M80 was like, that's what I'm gonna get, And so I got this other dude that we went to high school with, and he was like a way better guitar player, and he was into like way more like progressive metal, and he was like way into like Morbid Angel and like all kinds of like really crazy gnarly stuff. And I was like, oh, this dude's super cool. And so like we became friends. Funnily enough, though, he now only listens to like weird jam band stuff. And
I know dudes like that.
That was like a total thing. Like all of like my metalhead buddies in high school, like totally were like, they're like Carcass, Fish. Like I'm like, I get this, but what's happening over here? Like, do you twirl the Carcass, or?
Dude, it was such a weird transition. I was just like, one day he was this, and then the next day I'm like, you listen to Dave Matthews Band. All right.
Yeah. I don't know if it was like dudes who were just shredders, like who got bored with playing in like metal or hard bands.
I guess.
And then they just like ended up like playing in like, I had a friend in high school who we used to play like hardcore games, go to shows together, like listen to fucking great bands together. And he was a musician, right? Because he was in a band, all that stuff. And then he started playing, and then just like sat in his basement learning fucking Led Zeppelin songs. And then it turned into like a Grateful Dead. You're like, what the fuck is wrong? I was like, all right, dude, you go play in your fucking uncle band or uncle bar band, and then that's basically what happens.
It's whatever resonates with you. I just was truly baffled by the duality of Carcass and Fish. Like I don't like what is the
like polar opposites is so weird.
What's the through line here?
I'm sorry if I get heated. He's just like betrayed me. It was like a stuff in the back. Yeah.
Yeah, so that dude, he had an M80, and he sold it to me, and then, I don't remember what amp he got to replace that or whatever. I think he got like a Mesa Boogie.
That's a big purchase for that.
I think he had like that's right. He was a manager at McDonald's, and so he was like making bucks, whatever, and so. So he saved his money, and like he's like, I'm buying this Mesa Boogie. I'm like, yo, good for you, man. And he's like, I got this M80. You want to buy it? And I was like, hell yeah. And I think he sold it to me for like $100 or $150. I was like pretty fucking pumped. I was like, dude, I got an M80. I got this JCM 212. I was like, rocket. It was so fucking great.
That's a pretty good setup, I would say. I know people are gonna get on me for a Fender M80, but back in the day, that's a good setup.
Yeah.
I think all of those amps, because it's interesting to see that like a lot of those like are starting to go up in value. Like because at the time, like I don't know about the Crate Stealth, but like because we were talking about that on another episode, because that was like a Lee Jackson design head. which, is like, Zach Wilde played, Lee Jackson, and like, Lee Jackson definitely made some metal tones.
Yeah.
And like, but like, I feel like some of those amps I don't think the M80 has quite hit that, but like the 5150, like that was kind of like passe for a hot second until people realized like, oh wait, no, this amp is amazing.
Oh yeah. Still my favorite amp, high gain amp of all time. And people are just like, what, dude? A rectifier is way better. I'm like, nope. Sorry, 5150, old ones.
But I think that's like a good point. Like for like, it's like don't worry about like what the value is.
Yeah.
It's just like seeing all these bands play that. Like, so I mean, like Unbroken was definitely successful playing M80s, and like kids were stoked on it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like don't.
Well, yeah, like we would go and I'll be like, dude, this is going this show is going off. There's like everybody was going wild. Like that was the like you're like, oh, this is the thing, and it sounded loud, and it was like, yo, they got the crunch, they got the weird fucking dissonant notes and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, man, that's fucking sick, and it's loud, and I was like, yeah, that's the fucking sound, right?
Yeah, I remember a show at this point. I think I was playing like a rack, like FX, like a processor with like a power amp, right? So it was like, and we opened the show. The band I was in at the time, and it was in my friend's loft. It was Hatebreed, Turmoil, and Damnation, right? Hatebreed right before Satisfaction came out. And their gear was whatever, but that's the show that I remember seeing bands play, mind you, no fucking PA, just, like a vocal PA, a shitty vocal PA. And first time I saw someone play a rectifier was the guitar player from Turmoil, and it sounded fucking brutal.
Yeah.
And then Damnation AD fucking Marshall JCM, and I was like, that's another turn where it was Unbroken at first, and then everyone's like, oh, we gotta get Marshalls.
So we're playing these just random weird shows, and I don't even know how the intro gets made, but so Rob, goes to lots of shows. Rob from Unbroken, Mr. Marin, and that's how I end up meeting him, and for whatever reason, he liked us. I don't know why. We were fucking not great. But he booked a lot of shows. So a lot of those shows that came through, Rob was booking them. He was booking, like whatever. And so he ended up putting us on like all these really rad shows that we should not have been on. Like we were opening all these shows. So it was like, it was a Damnation, Integrity, Us, Ignite, and Gehenna.
Oh, Gehenna.
Another San Diego.
Yeah.
Those dudes. Love them. And so, so I saw Damnation, and I was just like, your face like melted, like big, crazy, curly hair, carcass shirt. I was like, dude, that's my dude. And it was just like so heavy, down-tuned, like just gnarly sounding. Like they had the all their like
the samples and shit.
Yeah, the samples, right? Yeah, had all the samples in between songs and stuff, and I was just like, man, these dudes got it dialed. This shit sounds so good. It was so heavy.
The first time I saw them on it was, I don't know if it was a full U.S. tour, but it was Snapcase, Lifetime, and Damnation. And it was like Hello Bastards era.
Yeah.
Like
Hello Bastards, yeah.
And I was just like, what is this? It was just this like buzzsaw, like amazing.
Buzzsaw is definitely perfect description because you're just like, what? Like I had never heard a guitar tone that heavy before.
Right? It's so weird. It's like almost has like that, that sound that Brian May gets from Queen with like playing with a coin.
Yes.
It almost has that weird kind of twang to it, and you're just like just the beginning of like No More Dreams, where it's like
Yeah.
that weird that pick sound, like the way that pick hits the strings almost has that same like Brian May kind of tone with like using a coin. I don't know if they use metal picks or something or what, but I was just like, how do you get a guitar to sound like that? Like I was like, my guitar does not sound like that.
Yeah, is Turbo Rat in the 800s. Fuck. And it's like, and I've seen the secret sauce too, like through like
You guys play shows with them, right?
Yeah, we played a bunch of shows with them, and then like just getting to know or meeting Ken Holden through Mike Schleibaum and Brian McTernan. I lived with Mike McTernan, the singer from Damnation.
Did you really?
For a while. But yeah, at Mike Schleibaum's studio, he's got like several Turbo Rats that have like all the markings on there with the secret sauce for the buzzsaw.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So once you did the after the M80, I guess what was your trajectory after that? Did you kind of switch right away, or were you using that amp for a while, and then
I used that for quite a while, and then I ended up just like so that was the amp setup for quite a while, and then my guitar got stolen at a show. And that was fucking heartbreaking. Like,
at a show?
At a show.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's
I had like our gears like set off to the side, and at the end of the night, like you're loading your shit out, and I was just like, "Where's my guitar? It's fucking gone." Like,
shit.
Somebody just fucking walked out with it. It's gone. I was like, my mom bought me that guitar. So luckily enough, same dude that sold me the M80 had a Kramer, blue Charvel style Kramer, and he was like, "Yo, bummer about your guitar. I'm buying a new fucking Jackson," and he was like, "You can borrow my Kramer or whatever." And I was like, "All right, cool, thank you." And I was like, "So, actually, I think stand by.
Yeah.
Have picture of me, fucking dirtbag. Let me see if I can add with the fucking.
Oh, you got long hair?
I had long hair. Yeah.
I love that. Oh, with X's too. That's awesome.
I don't know if you can see it really well, but anyway, so the blue Kramer.
Oh yeah.
Anyway.
Did it have a Floyd Rose on it?
Yes, it did.
Nice.
I always had the hardest time changing strings.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah, is that like my first Floyd? I had no concept of string tension and string gauge, so I was always just like I just had like this like in my case just like loose strings. Some of them were actually in pack, like individual packs. Other of them were just like throughout the case, and I just pull out whatever looked like it could be like an E or an
A.
Really? Yeah,
that's awesome.
And then like why is my bridge like perpendicular?
Yeah. I don't know what string gauge. I don't know what that means. It was like, it was always the hardest. Like people are like, "Oh, you should adjust your action." I'm like, I don't. What do you mean? What are you talking about? And they're like, "Yeah, like."
Yes.
I can never get it right. There was always like, it was either too, like I liked it low because I was like, cool, you don't really have to push the strings down too hard to like do anything. And I was like, but I would do that, but then it would like be touching. You get like fret buzz.
You get the fret buzz. And everyone's like, dude, that action's really light. Get fret buzz. I'm like, dude, I'm fucking distorted. I don't give a fuck. This is gonna add to the fucking gnarly. Fuck off.
Part of my sound.
That's part of my sound, dude. That actually happened the other day, and we're gonna actually have him on pretty soon. But he's like, "Wait, dude, you play all the other strings? You need to mute those strings, man. What the fuck?" I'm like, "No, dude, that's my sound. I play it open." I'm like, I just never learned how to silence the other strings. Until I started playing different styles of music, but
loud, man.
So
then I ended up with with that Kramer for quite a while. My friend, who was the singer of that band, Quarantine, he lives in the Bay Area now, and he still has that guitar. So I will be getting that guitar back at some point.
Oh, wow.
Oh wow.
No,
So what was do you know what the model was? Was it like a Pacer or?
I don't know if you can tell from the picture. Yeah, I can't tell. I'll get him to take some pictures and stuff, and like we'll figure out exactly what make and model.
So I'd like to see like what that thing's going for now, because you go on Reverb and stuff and you look at some of these older guitars, you're like, holy shit, I have that guitar, I bought it for $150 for a dude who needed money for drugs, and now that thing's selling for like $900, some shit.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy where gear's at. So yeah, after that, like we stopped playing, and I started getting interested in drums, and so I was working like I started getting like working like real jobs and like not really playing as much, and still going to shows but not really active in like playing or anything. And this dude I was working at Sears in the automotive department changing fucking tires, and this dude Justin Trujillo, not related,
Okay.
was had a drum set. He's like, yo, I got this drum set, I'm not playing anymore, like, you want to buy it? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, cool, I'll sell it to you for $300, like full everything, like cymbals.
Oh, nice.
$300. It was a black Pearl export kit, which is
Perfect.
funnily enough
Yeah.
is like the same kit that Ken Owen, like, just black Pearl export. And I was like, yo, that's fucking sick.
Yeah, I saw. I can't remember if you would send me the thing or not. Like when Carcass was auctioning off some of their gear, just to see that like that was the kit for like everything that he was.
Wait,
like,
he played a Pearl export?
It was,
Pearl
everything
export.
through Swan Song was a Pearl export. Yeah.
Black Pearl export, like the exact, like almost the. I mean, I don't know if it was like the exact one, but I was like, I don't know, that looks like my dirty ass Black Pearl export kit, and I was like, hell yeah, that's fucking sick. But I had that drum kit for a really, really long time. But yeah, that's what I learned to play drums on. Again, like, just set up in the room, and I'm like, cool, I'm just gonna start banging on this thing until I get it. Like,
Nice.
and that was it.
What snare were you using at the time, or did he just gave you the snare that came with it? Or
Yeah, yeah, Pearl snare. I eventually upgraded to a, because I had like real job or whatever, and wasn't like playing in any bands or anything at the time. I was just like, sit and just shit or whatever. But I did want a better snare, and I ended up with a Ludwig Black Galaxy.
Oh, nice.
Which is like, it's not like the best sounding snare, but it had a lot more
White.
Had a lot more bite to it. Responded way better. You felt like had a lot more bounce and stuff, and so it was just like, oh, this is this sounds cooler or whatever. And then that was like the setup for like a really, really long time. And so like after I moved to Seattle, but yeah, so that kit, and then I got I was like, yo, I want to get something different. So I sold that kit, and then, which I kind of regret selling it. I was had a fun. Like, you have things and you're like, I don't need this. I'm going to get something new. It's going to be great. You get rid of it and you're just like, I still want it.
I will not do that again. Like, I'm like always like wanting to sell gear, and in the last, I think it was the last one we did with Ryan, the interview we did with Ryan, he sold me a JCM 800.
Yeah.
And I sold it to him back like a year later for the same amount of money, and I was like, why did I do that? It was like $500.
That's so funny. Like, does he still have it?
No, he said he doesn't have it anymore, but I was like, but
Yeah, I have like one guitar that I won't get, because like I went through like a whole phase where it was just like I started getting like Jacksons and stuff again, and I was like, wow, these play great. And then I was just like, why? I just stopped playing all my Gibsons, and then I just started selling them off. Like, the only thing I regret is I wish I had held them like maybe 5 years longer, because like the prices went way up even from there. But I still made money on them, like, and I don't miss them. Like, there's like one Gibson that I have tattooed on me.
Really?
It's like, and I figure since I have a tattoo, I can't get rid of the guitar. Or I could make the argument for saying I have the tattoo,
I can get rid of the
I can
guitar.
get rid of the guitar.
Don't do it.
Nah.
Keep it.
It's always a double-edged sword, because I needed gear at the time, and I had a wine, like a cherry wine, cut wine red, Les Paul Studio. I think it was like an early 90s one, and it was a fucking great guitar I got for $450. At the time when studios were like, Les Paul Studios at the time, I think in the mid 90s, early 90s, were around that price, because brand new, I think they were like $700, $800. And so I had one of those, and I traded a guy. I actually sold it to a guy in Boston because I needed a cabinet to tour with, and I didn't have one. And the cabinet I got was a Mesa, like a rectifier cabinet. And I'm like, I want that guitar. I don't want this fucking cabinet. But I needed one to tour, so I got rid of the guitar, and I'm like, shit, you know. But I regret it, because that guitar was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So on drums, was there an equivalent of like seeing other like hardcore bands or other punk bands or any like genre of bands where you're like, that's the set I need to be playing? Or like what was the evolution there from?
I mean, not really. I guess yeah, I would just look around. You see like a lot of the bands I listen to are like big metal bands, and they had like crazy like drum sets, like rack shit, and I was just like, yo, that's not my vibe. Like I can't play good enough to justify having that many toms and cymbals.
Really? Just because, like, all that stuff doesn't really come into play.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because now, like, I've been like, studying a lot more drum playing and stuff, and you like realize that like it's not even about like, this big grand kit. It's like the different textures that you can get, like how you make the drum kit musical by having different cymbals that are different tones, and like having it's not about having like a rack of like rack toms where you can like do an endless fucking roll all the way down. Like it's not even necessarily about that. Yeah, it's about the different things you can do with that and how you can make that musical. So it makes more sense to me now, as far as like if I was to do something that you would have that kind of musicality in it, like some sort of music like that. But like, I don't know, like death metal and stuff, you're just like, yeah, man, I don't know that you need that. Like, if you could do the Bonham thing where you can make like that 4-piece sound like a 12-piece, then you're a good drummer. Like that was always my thing. I'm like, if you can fucking wail on these like 4 things right here, then like you're the dude. I don't know.
Like the first time I saw Entombed, like it was with Nicky Anderson playing drums, and just like after seeing, like, so super into metal, I love going to the shows, and it was always the 2 kick drums, 4 rack toms, 2 floor toms, rack, double rack, chains, whatever. And then Entombed comes out, and it's like Marshall Plexis, Ampeg SVT, Gibson's P-Bass, and then Nicky on this 4-piece kit. And it was the most like brutal, just huge. It was just like my head exploded. I was just like, that's amazing.
Is this the Entombed era where they were still kind of more death metal, or were they kind of more rock and roll at this point?
It was after, it was after Wolverine Blues. So it was To Ride, Shoot Straight, Speak the Truth tour. And like, there's this great, like, I love that band. I was just like, Darkest Hour was playing that show, and I was standing on the side of the stage, waiting for them to come on, and the band kicks into Wolverine Blues, and LG wasn't out on the stage yet, and he comes running in this is at like the Capitol Ballroom in DC, and he comes running in from backstage. And then, so I'm, looking at the stage. He comes up behind me, grabs me by the shoulders, spins me around. He's like, I was watching the hockey on the bus. This is the best. Now we're going to play this show. Ah! And just starts screaming in my face and, jumps on stage, grabs the mic right as the vocals kicked in. And it was just I was like, this is the best band ever. This is amazing.
So it's funny you guys are talking about the racks and stuff, because I had a friend who was playing drums, and then he had nowhere to keep the drums, so he kept them at my house. Although I lived in my parents had a small house, and I still lived at home, and so I had this. And not only did he had a rack, he had a Mapex, 3 rack toms, 1 floor tom, snare, and a rack, like a Gibraltar style rack with 3, and it was all in my room. So it was just my bed and just a drum kit, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, this is here. I'm just gonna learn how to play. So I started playing, but the only thing I was playing was Chain of Strength songs. It's like
I don't even need all.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, when I was looking, I always was into wanting to play drums. I wish I was still a drummer, because I loved drumming. But I remember when I saw Slapshot for the first time, that band was literally snare, kick drum, hi-hat, crash. That was it.
Yeah.
That's it. And he was that's all he played. And
did he actually have a rack tom or a floor tom?
No.
That's awesome.
Just kick, snare, hi-hat, and I was like, this is fucking awesome. Because he has the same beat the whole time. He's like, why should I bring everything else out when this is the only thing I use? I'm like, fucking awesome. That's punk.
Drum roll? Who needs a drum roll?
Yeah. Oh, it was awesome. I was like, whoa. And that was the first time I was like, oh, you can kind of make your own rules in this situation. It's you don't have to be prescribed to whatever. This dude came up, had that, and they fucking ripped, man.
Yeah. It's always a funny thing, because it's when you listen to or go see bands, and hardcore is very diverse in that way.
Yeah.
Or if you do listen to metal, there's some bands that have that crazy technical aspect to it, where you got dudes that just can play way, I don't want to say overplay, but they're insanely proficient at their instrument, right? Yeah. And that's a vibe.
Yeah.
But then you can go the complete opposite direction, that very simplistic whatever, and that's a vibe, and that's cool too. And it all works, but also it's kind of tough to navigate that, because when you're playing, you're like, oh, okay, well, am I overplaying? Am I underplaying? You overanalyze that kind of a little bit, and that's always a tough thing to do too, because especially if you start playing with dudes that can shred like crazy, and you're like, oh, I want to keep up with that energy and match that, whatever. You don't want to feel like you're dumbing it down too much, but you're also don't want to seem like you're trying to overplay or whatever. And I don't know, it's just a weird kind of balance. But if you play with enough people, enough new people, you it kind of helps to center you and figure out especially when you first start playing with people, you got to keep it simple, because you're just I don't know what your vibe is or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
And you just kind of you ease into it. So especially when it comes to playing, and which is why I never got a super complicated kit, because I was just okay, well, this is kind of what I do, and if that can if I can adapt that, I'm always open to learning new things, but if I can adapt that to what it is we're doing and kind of put my voice on that, then that's, I don't know, I feel like it works or it doesn't work, but it's always nice to play with new people and learn something new. And I've definitely upped the amount of cymbals I have, more for convenience in when I play because it's like I would have like a crash, and I used to just do one crash cymbal, and I would have a very big ride cymbal. I was always, it was probably the one expensive thing that I would go through, which is really dumb, but like I'm like Neanderthal playing, and I would get these Zildjian AA22 customs that are sick ass fucking rides. They sound rad, they're big, they crash really well, and that was like that was a crash for me. So I've learned now, like, okay, that's a very expensive piece of equipment. That is not for smashing into. Get other cymbals, and then it kind of balances out. And they break less frequently, and I also need to just not hit things like
I think that's like the technique that you learn as you play more and more. Like not just with drums, but also with guitar and sense of like dynamics. Where it's like when we started playing God Collider, I haven't played palm muting in quite a long time. Like Hogan's hat, right? When we started palm muting, I was like, oh shit, I gotta fucking relearn how to do this. But like, and then you just, as I've been playing, like, you become more of a nuanced player. I'm like, oh, you can control how much more control you have, like, as you get more experienced, I guess, And now it's like not a big deal, but I was like, oh shit, some of the muscles that I was using, I can't, And same thing with playing drums, you're not hitting these cymbals like you used to when you were a kid, because you had, exactly. So, but yeah, so Sam, we really appreciate you being on here, man. It's awesome. It was awesome to chat. Can you, I guess, like before we close off, what's your like guitar rig right now? So are you playing guitar in any bands?
I'm not playing in any bands, but I've tried to like keep up with it. Currently, I have two guitars. Even though I wasn't playing in any bands, I bought guitars because I love gear. So I have a 87 Gibson Flying V.
Nice.
Whoa!
Super sick. I got it a pretty good deal. I bought it online, but the neck had been broken and repaired.
That's fine if it's
Fine.
good,
Yeah.
And, the repair looked good, like pictures online or whatever when I bought it. And I got it, and I was like, yeah, it's like, it looks, it looks used, and it looks like somebody like literally grabbed the back of the guitar and just like,
okay.
I quit.
But, yeah, right. But the repair is solid, and that guitar, it's like a tank. It's very, very heavy, and they're very like head heavy too. So like if you let go of it, it will travel on you, right? But that thing stays in tune better than any guitar I've ever had. It is, and it sounds fucking great.
Yeah.
The other guitar I have is Fender Strat, Mexican made, which I also put humbuckers in.
Of course.
Because I had to have that guitar back, right? Like I had
Yeah.
But it's a Sunburst though, not the black.
Oh.
And that's a nice guitar, and it sounds good, but it's like a Fender and Gibson, like very different
Right.
styles and tones. And then I bought I wanted a really loud head, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna find something that's just super loud and like really wild, and I bought a PV Roadmaster, old PV Roadmaster, and that thing is probably the loudest amp I've ever had. And it's like all tube. It's got like 8 tubes in it or something. The thing is fucking gnarly. It sounds rad, but it's pretty wild. It's a wild, loud amp for sure.
Yeah, I think that was. I have to look it up, but I think that like Kim Thale from like Soundgarden was using those, or like he was using PV tube heads. Like, is it what year are those? The Roadmaster?
It's like late 80s, I think.
Yeah. I think it might be that.
I think it was
just some fact check.
Was it their flag? Yeah, I think it might have been their flagship amp before the 5150. Like as far as like high gain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got like crazy like pull out, push in knobs and like all kinds of like
to help you master the road.
There's a pump knob, I don't know what pump.
A pump knob?
Pump, yeah. It's like, I don't know. It's a fucking loud amp though. It's pretty sick.
So out of all of this, drums, guitar, what are what's the one piece of gear or pieces of gear that you can't live without after having this long gear journey? Like, what is the thing that you can't live without? If you're going to play a show, if it's on drum, you can do one for drums and one for guitar, like,
or just one, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the last kit I bought was this. You guys have seen it, the Great Pumpkin.
Oh yeah.
Is a 70s pearl wood fiberglass kit, and that thing is like, I love the way that thing sounds. I love the way it plays, and yeah, I don't think I'll ever get rid of that thing. It's awesome. Like I want to refinish it because the finish on the wrap on it is like, going away, and it's definitely like, it had, like, I got it used. I bought it online and I got it used, and it had that damage when I got it, so I got it for like pretty cheap.
Mm-hmm.
But it stays in the round because of the fiberglass. So even though like it may have gotten like some water damage or something, it didn't look like it or whatever, it just looked like it kind of delaminated. But the thing is, like, the roundest, like it's never gonna go out of round. Like, that fiberglass is gonna hold that wood solidly, and the thing is fucking loud as shit too. And so it's just like, yeah, I don't think I'll ever get rid of that kit.
What are the dimensions on it?
It's 22, 12, 16.
Oh, okay. 16. I love the floor tom. 16-inch floor tom's my favorite.
16. So it was supposed to have a 12 and a 13-inch rack tom, and the drum store that I bought it from, it was like, I think they were in like Idaho or something like that. They sent me the rack tom, floor tom, bass drum, and then the 13-inch. They sent me this random Tama 13-inch rack tom, which clearly they had like just mismarked a box and like sent my rack tom to somebody else and sent me somebody else. And I was like, yo, like, you guys sent me the wrong rack tom. And they're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, like, we'll locate it for you, and like, can you send it back to us? I sent it back to them, the wrong head or the wrong drum, and they never got back to me. Like, never sent me the 13, which I would have preferred, because I probably would have.
Okay, we'll put their name and address below. So
I don't even remember, honestly. I don't remember what the company was, but I was super, super pissed, and I was just like, ugh. But it was cheap though. It was, I think I only paid like $300 for it.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's like, I don't think the whole like kind of things that you don't necessarily need to spend a lot of money to get some of the best fucking gear, right? And that's like gear. I guess it's all personal, It's like some people like to spend it, and it helps them write better. Maybe it helps them write better. It helps them be more comfortable writing, as opposed to. But
it's because like.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, going back to like what you were saying about like playing drums and like learning feel, and like with guitar, like it's also like it's your hands, like half of, or even more than half of what's coming through the amp. Like, the amp's facilitating it, the drums are facilitating it, but like your feel and what you do with your hands is so much of what your sound is. And it doesn't matter if it's a Fender 80 or a Pearl Export, like, you're gonna sound like you, and like, there's no need to really go out and spend thousands of dollars.
I mean, not really. Like, I mean, unless you're looking to sound like for like a specific tone, but like, if you're like, oh, I want to sound like Randy Rhoads, like, yo, you're not gonna sound like Randy Rhoads. Your fucking hands don't do what Randy Rhoads' hands do. I was listening to Howard Stern, and they were talking about this story about Eddie Van Halen and Ted Nugent, and like Ted Nugent was like, oh, it was like, like early on, Van Halen was just starting out, and he's like, oh, well, you have like all these your amp is this and da 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 da, like your gear, that's why you sound like whatever. And I'm just like, okay, well that's like, Ted Nugent being fucking cocky or whatever. Yeah. And he's like, here's my guitar, like, let's see you do that. And like, he just grabs it and fucking shreds on it and sounds like fucking Eddie Van Halen through Ted Nugent's shit. And Ted Nugent's just like, oh fuck, like he couldn't fucking say anything about it because it's like, yeah, dude, the dude's, like this is what the instrument is. Like give him Mike Kramer and he's gonna make it sound like fucking
exactly. It was like that thing in I think it was American Hardcore, that documentary where Ian MacKaye is talking about his first band playing. He's like, yeah, we played, my bass was sounding shitty, and then Daryl from Bad Brains took my bass and they played, and he's like, let me tell you, it wasn't the bass. When I saw that, I was like, perfect example where it's like,
That's it. Yeah, I mean, is it nice to play on something that's like sounds really good? And sometimes that can bring out something in you, like if I play on a drum set that's got like old ass heads, you play on like a fucking, we're gonna backline the kit, and like, the snare's almost falling over every 2 seconds. You're like literally like holding it between your knees, and like, or like the hi-hat stands on, like things are just falling apart, and like one of the fucking floor tom legs is fucking keeps coming loose and fucking sliding down, and like all that nightmare shit. But you play in something like that, and it just like you lose that like fire to like do well on it. And then like I sat behind like really nice kits, like fresh heads on them and everything, and you're just like, you all of a sudden like it brings something out in you, and you're like, oh whoa, like I didn't know that I could play that role or whatever. I guess, I mean, it's all up here though, right? Like, your mind manifests through your body and all that kind of stuff. So like that positivity, maybe, I mean, that can help a little bit, but like also, it's still the person. It's still
and I think some of it is like cosmetically perception. Like, right, I want to be on stage with this amp, right? Like, I have a band member who shall not be named once in a while, who refuses to let me play an Epiphone. I'm like, Epiphone guitars are probably at this point better than like, I mean, same company, but you can't find a Gibson custom less than $3,000, right? Yeah. And I've always wanted a custom, and Epiphone makes a great one, but it says Epiphone on it. But it looks exactly the same except for the headstock, right? Which I don't like Epiphone headstock, but still, I'm sure it plays similar,
I heard similar things, like Paul McCartney used to kick John Lennon off stage because he tried to come on with
Epiphone bass.
So is there anything that
I'll tell you off screen, I think you might know.
So is there anything that you're working on that you want to plug, or?
I mean, the current band I'm playing in is Rod of Correction. Indecision, Mandel puts it out because he likes us, I guess. It's good. It's like thrash crossover stuff, so you can check that out. Go over to Indecision and give that a listen. And then coffee stuff. Heartwork Coffee Bar, San Diego. If you're rolling through town, come get some. Order some shit online.
You guys. It's a mean hang. I came out there on a Saturday. It was just like I was just like, damn, the line's wrapped around the block, and then like you're like, no, everybody just hangs out.
Everybody hangs out.
Awesome.
next to a record store, and it's just it's a cool vibe. It's a good place.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Sam. We really appreciate it. And so I guess we'll cut right there, right?
Yeah.
Or sort of.
Cut.